I don't remember much from before I was 6. My memory begins like a room with the lights turned on halfway. Some corners remain dark. I've tried to enter those corners many times, but every time I get close, something in me shuts the door. But there's one thing I do remember clearly: the sound of my father's keys at the door. That small metallic rattle could change everything. My whole body responded before I understood why. I was 6 years old when my heart learned to run faster than my feet. My father would come home late, his steps uneven but heavy, like someone trying to walk through water. There was always a smell around him, the smell of alcohol mixed with cold night air. And even though I was only a child, I knew what that smell meant. It meant the house would stop breathing. My mother would freeze first. She never yelled. She never cried in front of him. She held everything inside her, like a deep ocean that looks calm on the surface but hides storms below. You could look into her eyes and see whole worlds sinking. My father, on the other hand, he was fire. He was intensity, impulse, movement, eruption. He acted before thinking. He felt everything loudly. His love was loud. His anger was louder. And I was the space between them. I didn't understand the arguments. I didn't know the words. I didn't know the meaning of the tones, the accusations, the old wounds resurfacing night after night. I just felt the atmosphere changing. Like the air in the house had texture, like fear had smell, shape, weight. I learned to detect it before anything happened. There was always that moment of silence before everything started. Not peace, never peace. It was the silence that warned the storm, the silence that screamed louder than any sound. My mother would stand still, like stone. My father would pace, like a storm cloud trying to hold lightning. And I would disappear. The attic was my refuge. I still don't know how I found it. Nobody showed me. No one said, "Go there." But my body knew. My feet knew. My heart knew. I would climb the stairs one step at a time, slowly, carefully. I memorized every creak of every step, especially the 7th step from the bottom. It always made a noise. If I skipped it, maybe nothing bad would happen. If I did it just right, maybe everything downstairs would stay quiet. This is how children build superstitions. This is how fear becomes routine. Reaching the attic, I would push aside a heavy old suitcase that smelled of dust and old fabric. There was a small window that let in just a bit of moonlight, soft and weak, just enough to remind me that the world outside existed. The attic was quiet, but not alone. It had a hum. The kind of silence that doesn't hurt. The kind of silence that wraps around you like a blanket, not like a threat. There were boxes filled with old photographs, yellow papers, clothes that once belonged to people I never met. I would sit on the floor, wrap my arms around my knees, and press my cheek against the wood. Sometimes I imagined that the dust floating in the air were stars, and I was somewhere far away, suspended between nothing and everything. I didn't cry upstairs. I didn't make a sound. I held everything in, just like my mother did. But unlike her, I was not strong. I was just small. Downstairs, the voices would rise. words with sharp edges, words that turned into objects, objects that hit surfaces, sometimes skin, sometimes walls, sometimes the floor. I didn't need to see it. I felt every vibration through the wood. Fear doesn't need vision. Fear listens from inside the bones. I didn't think I was hiding. I think I believed I was protecting something fragile inside me. Something I didn't have a name for. Something soft, tender, breakable. When you are a child, the world is bigger than you can hold. And sometimes, the only thing you can do is make yourself as small as possible. Years passed. The house remained. The storms continued. The attic stayed the same. I grew. But something inside me stayed 6 years old. That's the thing about trauma. The body keeps time differently. The body remembers what the mind tries to erase. Today I'm 18, almost an adult. People think I am calm, soft-spoken, gentle. They say I have a quiet presence, a peaceful energy. They don't know that my calm is not peace. My calm is self-erasure, a learned silence, a survival instinct. When someone raises their voice, even if they are not angry at me, my heart hits my ribs like fists. I feel myself slipping away, disappearing into the attic inside my own chest. The attic came with me. I don't have to run up the stairs anymore. I go there even when I'm standing still. Sometimes my husband, who is kind, gentle, loving, comes home tired. Sometimes he sighs. Sometimes he puts his bag down a little harder than usual. And suddenly, I am 6 again. I freeze. My breath stops. My ears search the silence for danger. He doesn't understand at first. How could he? How do you explain that your heart doesn't know the difference between the past and the present? One evening, it happened again. A neighbor in the apartment building had an argument. Nothing to do with us. But the tone, the force, the rhythm of the yelling, it reached something in me. My hands shook, my throat closed, and without thinking, I walked into our storage room. Not an attic, but close enough. I sat on the floor, my arms wrapped around my knees, my cheek pressed against the wall. Like muscle memory. I didn't cry. I just tried not to exist. My husband found me. He didn't touch me immediately. He didn't ask what was wrong. He just sat on the floor beside me. He waited. Eventually, I breathed again. I realized then that I was still living in the aftermath of a childhood that asked me to be a ghost who learned to stay quiet, a ghost who learned to disappear, a ghost who learned that love is something you have to survive. But I don't want to be a ghost anymore. I want to exist. I want to breathe without apologizing. I want to speak without shaking. I want to love without running. I want to be loved without disappearing. Healing is not loud. Healing is not sudden. Healing is not one moment. Healing is choosing to stay in your body, to stay in the room, to stay with your feelings, to stay with your story. So now, when I feel myself climbing those stairs again, the stairs that exist only inside me, I stop. I place my hand over my heart. I breathe, slow, gentle, present. I whisper to the child I was, the one sitting in the attic surrounded by dust and moonlight. You are safe now. You don't have to run. You don't have to hide. I am here. I won't leave you again. Sometimes I still hear echoes of those nights, the slammed doors, the broken words, the silence afterward. But now I know something that I did not know at 6 years old. The silence no longer controls me. I can fill it with my voice. My voice may still shake, but it is mine. If you are listening to this, and you recognize yourself in my breathing, in my pauses, in my silence, you are not alone. You survived something that tried to make you disappear, but you are here. You are real. Your voice is allowed. Your love is allowed. Your presence is allowed. You no longer have to climb stairs to find safety. You can build safety inside yourself. You deserve to live outside the attic. And when you are ready, come back down with me. One step at a time, I'll hold your hand. If you felt yourself in this story, stay. This channel is a place for hearts that learn to be quiet in order to survive. You don't have to heal alone anymore. Subscribe and come back tomorrow. We'll breathe through this together.